green. At 6 minutes, I'll have yellow. At 7, I'll have red. And then the individual evaluations, which will be myself today. At 2 minutes will be green, 2.5 will be yellow, and 3 will be red. So thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Our other functionary today is our A counter, and that is Angel. So Angel, if you would please explain what you will be doing as A counter.
Yes, thank you, Tom. My role as A counter is to count the number of unnecessary sounds or repetitive words you may use when you are speaking. I will be observing and taking note of words such as you know, like, etc. These are filler words that affect the effectiveness of a speech. I will present my report when called upon at the end. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Angel. That's it for the evaluation team for now. We'll be giving our reports after the table topics portion and the speech evaluation. Back to you, Toastmaster Kevin.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'd also like to mention that though we do not have a grammarian for the evening, we do have a word of the day, and the word of the day is evoke. And it is a verb to bring or recall to the conscious mind. So if you feel upon evoking for the evening, that would be the most appropriate thing to do. I'll also mention that we are recording tonight's meeting, so that will be available to watch on YouTube probably within a day or two. So if you want to share the meeting or see how you did, the video will be available. If those that are not familiar, we do have a variety of functions available, chat functions at the bottom. You can chat to everyone or provide a message directly to one person. And I think as Tom had might have mentioned during the program speech portion, if you'd like to give your notes directly to the speaker today, which is Chad, you may do so through that chat function, or if you prefer, you can send him an email directly. And at that, I'd like to move on to talking a little bit about the leaping vernal equinox. March 19th was the official first day of spring or vernal equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, which happened to be the earliest first day of spring in 124 years. Now, this was set in motion back in the year 2000. Normally leap years, which occur every 4 years, leap over century years like 1700, 1800, and 1900, and so on. They are not actually considered leap years. However, that was different with the year 2000, because if a year is divisible by 400, it is not skipped. So this had the effect of pushing the first day of spring to the 20th, as opposed to the traditional 21st of the month. But since this year is also a leap year, that pushed the vernal equinox even earlier on the calendar to the 19th. And so that has not happened for 124 years, although it will happen again in the not too distant future. In just another, I believe, 12 years, we will see another March 19th vernal equinox, so we can look forward to that. Now, I'd like to spring into action and leap to our program speech, which is from the Toastmasters International Better Speaker Series, and I'd like to introduce Chad Teichman to be for our speaker today. Chad, go ahead and take the realm.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm going to be sharing my screen soon, so please let me know if you can see this. Hold on a second.
And let me know when you're starting, Chad.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So the Better Speaker Series is something Toastmasters likes to put on where we can feature presentations about improving your speaking skills. It can cover anything from beginning your speech to ideas for a speech to getting over the fear of public speaking. I decided to start with the very first one that they offer, which is beginning your speech. And it's kind of ironic that beginning your speech is the first one. I guess that maybe that isn't ironic, but so now I'm going to go into some useful tips for you when you're considering how you should begin your speech, which kind of is the toughest thing that you might have to do when you're writing out your speech. So criteria for a successful opening of your speech is you should really be considering the audience first. Your main goal in this opening, the first minute or so of your speech, is to get the attention of your audience so that they're invested enough to pay attention to the entire speech. There's been
Ted, sorry,
studies that have said
one
that,
thing, Chad, I don't think we're
yes.
seeing your screen. I don't think we're seeing the correct screen. We're not seeing a presentation. We're just seeing your Better Speaker Series window.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's see.
Unshare your screen and then reshare it.
Okay. Is it viewable now? Okay. So some criteria for a successful opening include getting the attention of your audience. A listener's attention needs to be refocused away from any distractions they might have, and a good beginning is something that can draw the audience towards the topic. You're also there to introduce your topic, so the beginning of the speech should really indicate what you'll be talking about and why the audience should invest time in listening to you. When listeners understand the topic and how they'll benefit, they're more likely to be invested and to pay immediate attention. Another criteria is that you establish rapport with the audience. These are some things that we go over in Toastmasters quite frequently with body language. Whether you're smiling, you're making eye contact, you're showing enthusiasm both when you're talking and when your body language is present. You want to show that you're friendly and you're interested in them, and you show that you have a personal interest in the subject that you're going to be talking about. And lastly, take less than 5 to 10% of the entire speech time. You don't want to have your opening be a big chunk of your speech. So you should just have a very quick and brief opening, and it kind of gets the attention, and then you're going to hit them with your points in the middle, and then you're going to conclude with a short conclusion. Some techniques that you could use when you are thinking about opening a speech, stating the importance of your topic. So telling your listeners why the topic is important to them. This could be, maybe you're talking about some local law that you want to persuade someone to support or not support. So how does that affect the audience? And that kind of goes with you researching the topic and then also researching the way the audience might feel about the topic and how you can connect with them. Another thing is to make a startling statement. So they have this example Toastmasters provided saying, "Smoking kills. More Americans die each year than were killed in battle during World War II and Vietnam together." I don't know if that's like the most startling statement, but you could just say some sort of startling thing, like fact or statistic that gets the audience to think, oh, that came out of left field. I don't really know much about that. I'm interested in learning more. So that's a technique that you could use when you're opening. Another technique is to arouse suspense or curiosity. And this involves using a series of statements related to the topic that would pique the listener's interest. So there's an example, and it's a speaker could begin a speech by saying, using a feline tone of voice and body gestures, "I enjoy lying around the house all day. I do not care if you never come home as long as my food is available because I have fun by myself. I like to chase my tail and stalk imaginary animals. As you may have already guessed, I'm a cat." So that's an example that you could use when you're talking about, this speech was talking about cats. So think about a series of statements that you could make about a particular subject where you don't give it all away in the intro, but you arouse some sort of suspense or curiosity so that the audience members are wanting to pay attention to what you have to say. Another technique that you can use is telling a story or an anecdote. They have this example of, "My brother and I went hunting last week in the woods behind my house," and then they go into further detail. Stories, I think, are very effective when you're telling, whether it's your icebreaker speech or something that's happened to you. So try to give a little bit of, you want to capture the audience interest, so give a little bit away in the beginning, but not too much, so it piques their interest. And you only want to kind of make it very brief where you don't tell the entire story in the opening. Another opening technique you could deploy is asking a rhetorical question. You ask one question or a series of questions to the audience that relate to your speech, and the audience will have to think about an answer, and then they'll also be thinking about your topic. So an example would be, in a speech about first aid, a speaker could begin by asking, do you know what to do if your child begins to choke? And then the audience in return would be, okay, let me think about that. Maybe I don't, maybe I do, but if I don't, maybe I should be paying attention to what this speaker has to say. Another technique that you can use in an opening would be to begin with a quote. If you're going to use a quote, you want to use a quote that has to deal specifically with your speech. So if you're adding authority to a speech, say on something like climate change, maybe you want to get a scientist quote about climate change. And maybe a quote can be used to amuse the audience if it has some sort of humor in it, if you want to like quote a comedian. You can also dramatize the speech point if you're like quoting some fact or statistic to make it more dramatic. Another technique that you could use is to reference the occasion. So when you're referencing an occasion, and this is mainly when you're doing special occasion speeches, you begin by acknowledging the occasion, and then you are able to recognize some sort of unusual thing that's happening or an important event, and then you establish this common interest with the audience. So if we're giving a speech, maybe at some sort of award ceremony, you might want to comment on what people are wearing in the audience, or make some sort of observation about the venue, or make some sort of observation about the food. Something, you could use humor there, you could use something that will get the entire audience to kind of think about what's going on around them, and then they kind of focus more in on what you're about to say. So that's another technique that you can use, and that's mainly when you're doing a special occasion type speech. Some other techniques, humor. Humor is always a good technique to use. It gets the audience more comfortable with you. It gets them laughing kind of out of their element. Audience participation, I've seen this used frequently before, and I know Kevin used audience participation last week. It's where you ask a question to the audience, and then they give you some sort of response, and then you can kind of feed off that. It doesn't work all the time, especially if your audience isn't a talkative audience. And you kind of have to be aware and research your specific audience, and knowing that they'll be willing to participate if you use this technique. Another technique is a demonstration, and I've actually given a demonstration speech before on how to do a swimming stroke. So I might go on stage and I might show kind of with my arms or my legs, like what you would do to kick, or what you would do to with your hands to stroke across the pool. You might be demonstrating how to fold in a paper airplane, and you're showing it. You might be demonstrating how to play an instrument, and you're showing a little bit in the beginning to pique their interest. Another thing is to reference a historical event. By referencing some sort of historical event, you want to be careful. You want to make sure that your audience has some sort of interest or reference point when you're using a historical event. So it's very important that you do that audience research that I was talking about in the beginning. Some things to avoid. Avoid acknowledging the amount of preparation that you've been taking. The audience doesn't need to know how much you prepared for a speech unless the amount of time somehow pertains specifically to that speech. So don't address that. And if a speaker has spent little time preparing and states that as a fact, you might actually be invalidating the whole speech or your level of authority or expertise. So that's something to avoid. Avoid being dull and boring. And I think we've learned in Toastmasters, there's specific ways we can avoid this. Basically, you want to be engaging. You want to make sure you have an interesting opening. You've researched your audience and it's pertinent to them and they have some sort of interest in it. And then you're also showing that you're excited about the topic by your body language and your eye contact. And then you also want to avoid delaying the mention of the topic. And that means that if you delay the topic, and sometimes speakers deploy this technique, you think that it may create anticipation or arouse some sort of curiosity, but it might actually do the opposite, and the audience won't know the subject matter or the purpose of your message, and they might immediately lose interest in your speech. So in conclusion, a dynamic beginning is essential for a successful speech. So you want to make sure that you, in that first minute or so, that you are capturing the audience's attention so that you can take it all the way to the middle, to the conclusion, and get them interested in what you're saying, and then that they learn something from your speech. Because we have such a short attention span outside of Toastmasters, it's very easy, if you're not interested in a topic within the first minute or so, to totally zone out and not pay attention. So that's why it is very, very critical in the beginning to get the audience interested in what you are talking about. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Chad. If you can, yeah, there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll give everybody a few moments to make your comments for Chad. You can either send them via the chat box option there, and you can direct at Chad specifically in a private message, or you can write it down in an email and send it to him. I'll give you a few moments to get those notes back down. All right, I'll move on and talk a little bit about spring cleaning. Appropriately timed, yesterday was the beginning of National Cleaning Week. It's a week that can produce improved moods, decreased stress levels, and increased creativity. On average, Americans spend approximately 6 hours per week cleaning their homes, with the most dreaded cleaning tasks being cleaning the bathroom. That is followed by kitchen cleaning, dusting, mopping, and finally doing the laundry. Now, the origin of spring cleaning can be traced back to the Persian New Year, which falls on the first day of spring. However, some believe the practice originated from an ancient Jewish tradition of thoroughly cleansing the home in anticipation of Passover. Now, some tips for making cleaning less intimidating is to tackle one room at a time. Start from the top and work your way down. Dust ceiling fans, door moldings, and window tops, and don't be afraid to move furniture to get to those areas that can collect dust and debris. Spring cleaning time is also a perfect opportunity to donate to thrift stores those items you clear out of the closet, basement, and storage space. Now, I would be clearing out of the way for our Topicsmaster, but I think our Topicsmaster wasn't able to make it today, so I'm going to go ahead and ask a couple questions in our table topics section. But I wanted to ask Bridget, are you interested in participating in our table topics session? I can't hear you. You got to turn on the microphone.
I said, thanks for asking. I actually wouldn't mind participating. I sent you a message beforehand. I have a ATD call at 6. So depending on the timeline, you tell me if it'll work.
It'll work just fine. It'll work just fine. Okay. But if you do need to leave a little early, be my guest. Yeah, it won't be a problem. But we'll be done with table topics by then.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. So I want to first start off. Just grabbed a couple table topics questions from online, and I want to ask Omar, when was the last time you tried something new?
Well, the last time I tried something new was doing the cooking with the chef's event at CSU. what I tried something new was seafoods like a salmon and a shrimp, and to be honest, those were delicious.
Nice.
And I would like to try also a new seafood one day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Omar. I'll let you know that there is a reactions button down at the bottom. If you'd like to use that to signify your clapping, you may go right ahead. That is available. There's also a thumbs up as well. So you all can use that to signify your enthusiasm. All right, and next question. What life lesson did you learn the hard way, Angel?
Thank you for that question. The life lesson that I had to learn the hard way was to taking care of myself. Because when I started working at my first professional job right out of school, of university, I would just say yes to everything they would tell me at work just because I wanted to look good. And I would take too much responsibility. I would be in the office 12, 14 hours a day, weekends as well. And I was not sleeping well, I was not eating well. And it got to the point that I actually ended up getting sick. So that's where I learned that I had to balance. I couldn't just say yes to everything to get the bigger bonus or whatever. I needed to pause and say, okay, I'm not going to do that because I need to sleep or I need this time for me as well. So yeah, that would be the one that I had to learn the hard way.
That's an important message to learn there. Thank you. All right, and if you had the chance to go back in time and change one thing, what would you do? Tom?
Well, that's an easy one. If I could go back in time and change one thing, it would have been to grow out my hair while I had the chance. Because as you can see, if you're looking at the screen, I don't have much left. And growing up in a military family, I always had kind of a military style haircut. I'm not a big fan of getting haircuts. I haven't paid for a haircut in I don't know how many of years. Some of you are probably thinking, well, it shows. But, you know, I either got my hair cut at home by my mother or we went to a military base to get the hair cut by the military barber. And I didn't grow my hair out long until I was in my late 20s. And by then it was a race against time. It was a race against time. And I just wish that I would have grown my hair out as soon as I moved out after I finished high school, because then who knows, I could have enjoyed a good 10, 11 years with gorgeous, long, curly, dark brown locks. So again, if I could go back in time and change one thing, it would be that. I would have grown out my hair long when I still had the chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. All right, and what has life taught you recently? Bridget.
Oh, how did I feel that coming? I would say that recently life has taught me the power of flexibility and agility, and that life is going about at a very rapid pace. I would say, very simple example, what we've gone through since March 13th and with our pandemic that's going on, just being ready to pivot at any moment. And yeah, so it's taught me that I don't have to be who I am, even though I know who I am. As far as DISC goes, I love being consistent. I love planning. I love forecasting, but just recognizing that not everybody operates that way and that we're not always able to, and just to be able to pivot and to move and yeah, to be okay with being uncomfortable. So I would say that would be my most recent life lesson.
Yes, that's a helpful life lesson to learn, but also could be one of those hard life lessons to learn. So great. Well, thank you very much, Bridget.
Yeah.
Great. And would you rather be a worried genius or a joyful simpleton? Patrick.
All right. Thank you, Kevin, for that question. Nowadays, with all of this panic and paranoia about health and work and everything important in our society, apparently, I would choose to be a worried simpleton, especially during these times, because I firmly believe that you might find this a little cheesy. I don't have research papers to back this up, but I believe that the mind is the strongest immune system. And if you're not so worried or paranoid about getting sick or something regarding your health, you're less inclined to be ill. You're less inclined to contract that disease or fight that disease. That's at least in response to COVID-19 right now. But in general, I find myself a very worried person. It keeps me on my game, but at the same time, it causes stress. And will get me to lose my hair someday, not unlike Tom. So in terms of evoking the answer to that question, I will have to choose being a worried simpleton. Thank you, Kevin.
Oh, all right, Patrick, a worried simpleton. All right. All right, and our last question is going to be for Chad, and it's a pretty easy one, but I think we can expect a pretty complex answer. How do you define success, Chad?
Thank you for that question. I think I would define success as you setting forth something that you want to do as maybe a goal, an attainable goal that you have, and then meeting that specific goal, whether it's to go to the gym more often, you have to make sure it's something measurable. And if you're able to meet that, I would think that would be success. Or like what I'm doing in Toastmasters, I have a goal to at least get to Advanced Communicator Silver this year. So that's my goal, at least by June. So if I'm able to reach that, then I would feel like I did something successful. So when I think about success, it's something that is personally enriching, that I wanted to excel at, and then I was able to have some sort of measurable outcome that led to the success of that specific goal. Thank you for that question.
All right, Chad, thank you. All right, and now that's going to just about conclude the table topics portion of the meeting, but I would like to ask for a quick timers report of just the table topics. Did we get everybody on time, or is there anybody on the before or after of the time span?
So I'm just going to go down in order. Our first one was Omar. He was around 50 seconds. So getting close there, just needed to speak a little longer. Angel was very close at 55 seconds. Very close, very close. I was ready to hit green on your chat box for that. Our next one was Tom, which was 1 minute 20. So very good, within time. Bridget was around 45 seconds. And then we had Kevin add on to finish her sentences. And then I myself, I had the timer in front of me, so mine was around 1:18. So that was within time. And Chad's was pretty much right at 1 minute. It was around, I see 59:86, so I'll give it to him for that.
Yeah, that's close enough, close enough. All right, and at that, I'd like to ask for a vote of best table topics. You can send a private message directly to me on your vote for the best table topics speaker of the evening, and then we will announce the winner at the end of the meeting. Now I'd like to move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. So I'd like to pass it back over to Tom to take over.
Thank you, Kevin. I've evoked the use of this little light here to improve my appearance on the screen here. We're going to start the evaluation portion of our meeting with Patrick's evaluation of Chad's presentation. Patrick, you're on.
So in case it's relevant, this evaluation guide, it doesn't have numbers, or it's not an evaluation guide I've seen before. It's just general questions about the specific speech. So in terms of introducing the introduction to the Better Speaker series, I feel you did a very good job at introducing the kind of branding that Toastmasters does for that series. In terms of this specific speech, I think we could have used a little more clarification. I believe there are more in this series that you will be doing. So it wasn't super clear on this specific speech. This specific speech's objectives, but otherwise I now know what Better Speaker Series is, which is great. In terms of being prepared, your presentation was awesome. It was very clear. It wasn't too wordy. It could have used maybe some pictures, but overall it was very well prepared. Just the mild technical issues in the beginning, of course, it's completely understandable. In terms of vocal variety, you have gotten better at vocal inflections and I guess getting more musical with your vocals. It's a very difficult skill to polish, and I feel you're getting better at it every time I hear you speak. And as far as smooth visuals, again, the technical issues, they plague us all, so it's not unique to this speech. I recommend maybe practicing the speech in a private Zoom call. I believe we all have Zoom accounts, so we can practice it and make sure we're displaying the right screen at a given time. In terms of presentation style, you were very clear and you were very factual in how you presented the information. In terms of organization, it was very well organized. There was a great flow to the presentation. The PowerPoint helped with that very much. You gave great examples on how you wanted us to implement what you were teaching to us, essentially. And as far as making the presentation more effective, I would recommend more audience participation, whether it's questions, even rhetorical questions, maybe taking advantage of the Zoom poll option or a thumbs up or thumbs down emojis, that kind of thing. I think eventually we'll all start to take advantage of that through these meetings online. And overall, what I liked, you had great eye contact in the beginning. It started to falter a little bit in midway, but overall you were keeping really good eye contact with the camera, which is very difficult. I've been very guilty of it myself as of right now. And overall, you were very consistent in your delivery with the speech. So overall, great job. Oh, pardon that.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick, for your evaluation. We'll get back to you in just a minute. Angel, can we get the counters report, please?
Yes, Tom. So for Kevin, actually the only one that I heard was some ums. For Omar, I heard some false starts and some word repetition. For Patrick, he was even on the ahs and the ums and a couple of so's. With Chad, it was mostly ahs and ums. And Tom, I couldn't hear any. And for Bridget, I could only hear one ah and one And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Angel. Well done. Patrick, the times report for the speech and your evaluation of the speech, please.
For the speech itself, there were a few pauses, and so the time is not fully accurate. But the time I came to was around 7 minutes and 32 seconds. So well within time on that. And as for my evaluation, I was around 2 minutes. So also within the time allotted.
All right, very good. Thank you, Patrick. For my general evaluation report, I think that having this many people, basically the same number of people as we did at our last Zoom meeting, is good because we will be doing Zoom meetings at least until June 1st per Toastmasters International's instructions. Plus, as some of you know, this is really the way of the future, having meetings and discussions via whether it's Zoom or some other platform. So this is a great opportunity for us to really improve on these things. And one area I think we've been improving on is we've been getting better at using the Zoom. One thing I particularly like, oh, goodbye, Bridget. Thank you for attending. I really appreciate you dropping in. For one thing I really noticed, and I don't know if this was something that you did, Kevin, as the host, or if this was something that each individual participant did, and that was I noticed that during chat speech, everybody muted themselves so as not to interrupt the speech. So I wanted to say that that's a really good thing we should continue to do. Is that something you did, Kevin, or is that something that everybody did on themselves?
I did it for myself, and it seems like everybody followed suit, and it's fantastic.
That's great. That's great, because that's one thing I made sure to do. And then when I went and checked the list of participants, I noticed everybody did it. So that's fantastic. One area we could improve with our Zoom meetings, and it's something that it's taken me this long to figure out, is the positioning of my camera. When I first logged on, Kevin said I was a shadowy figure. And then when I brought up my picture on the full screen, I could see that all this light behind me, but none in front of me. And so all you saw was a silhouette. So those are the things to be aware of anytime. I'm a technology latecomer. I very recently crossed the digital divide. And this is a learning experience for me. And this is one thing I would challenge us all to be aware of, is how we appear on the camera. For example, are we looking down at the camera? And, sometimes that may seem a little bit intimidating. Are we real far back from the camera? And does it seem like we're not engaged? So, finding that right balance that works for each one of us, I think, is important. On a general note for meetings in general, Patrick, one thing I can say, and I don't mean to, well, I already did, but is for when the timer should ask the speaker before the meeting begins how much time they need for it. Fortunately, it didn't get in the way. We don't have a busy meeting today, but something that we can all make sure to do in the future when your timer is to ask the speaker before the meeting how much time they need, so that when it comes time to introduce yourself in the role of timer, you can say our speaker is Fred and he's asked for 8 to 10 minutes. And another thing I think another challenge for us at the start of the meetings with Zoom especially, because this happens naturally when we meet in person, is to engage everybody, at least get a word from everybody as soon as they check in. So these are one of the challenges I think that we can improve on. We're only going to get better at this. As I mentioned before, we'll be doing this for at least another month or so. But again, I love the fact that we had 2 virtual guests. I can see we're all getting better at using Zoom, and, really well done to everybody who recognized the importance of muting themselves while the speaker was giving their presentation, because there's all kinds of background noise. I think for a while it sounded like Angel was having a party next door or out in the hallway. But well done. That concludes my general evaluation report. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. Some great comments there. Some great advice. I'd also like to add to that be cautious of audio as well, and making sure that you are close enough to the microphone so that we can hear you, and that you have a microphone. I mean, you don't have to go out and buy a special microphone. Most microphones these days are pretty good, but to make sure that your audio quality is good. So even if you have pristine video, if your audio is bad, you're going to look horrible. So keep this audio sounding good. But thank you very much, Tom. And I got a short little presentation to wrap us up with. Let me share my screen here. One moment. All right, so I hope everybody can see the screen. Oh wait, hold on one moment. Got to do one other thing before I do this. There we go. All right, with the state-ordered self-quarantine, the self-quarantine at home, it may be tough to really enjoy everything spring has to offer. However, we still can celebrate the season by watching some films that evoke the springtime. Now, although beginning with traumatic events that take place in winter, those flower-filled springtime scenes between the beloved deer and the ever-enthusiastic Thumper can warm your heart in Bambi. Or how about the adventures of a misfit ant named Flick, who sets out to save his entire colony from a group of grasshoppers with the help of a ragtag crew of failed circus performers in A Bug's Life? If you're in the mood for a musical, follow along with nightclub performer Fred Astaire as he hires chorus girl Judy Garland to dance with him in order to show his former partner he can make anyone a star in Easter Parade. Then go back in time with Gina Davis, Madonna, and Tom Hanks as women take over the game of baseball in A League of Their Own. Now, as tensions rise in the build-up to the spring fling dance, this iconic high school film has memorable lines, a perfect cast, and a lesson teaching us that the limit does not exist in Mean Girls. Now, who could forget the memorable shot of Julie Andrews playing a nun-to-be who becomes the governess to a naval officer's 7 children, running through the beautiful Austrian outdoors in this 5-time Oscar-winning gem, The Sound of Music. So if you need your vernal equinox fix at home, you can download or stream one of these springtime fresh flicks. Now, I'd like to present the award for Best Table Topics. Oh yes, Tom, did you have you raised your hand?
I did. Thank you, Kevin. I forgot to mention in my report that Patrick used the word of the day in gerund form. He used the word evoking, and I used the word of the day as well in its infinitive form, and I'm not sure if anybody else used it. Did anybody else use the word of the day evoke that I did not catch?
Other than me. But...
Okay, that was it. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, so to present tonight's award for Best Table Topics, now I know drum roll is a little odd, so I've got that going right here for us. Best Table Topics goes to Haliday. All right, Tom Haliday.
That's a nice.
You can collect your best table topic speaker ribbon after June when we're able to see you again.
That's a great thought.
Thank you. Oh, and at this point of the meeting, I would like to introduce our Jokemaster. I see that Patrick has stepped up to the plate. He has a joke for us. So Patrick, please take over.
All right. So let me just make sure you can hear me. Okay. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I have a joke that's on theme, thankfully. It's not about spring break specifically. You'd be amazed how many dirty jokes there are about spring break. So where it's not, this one's good for the whole family. So the 4 seasons were arguing about which one of them was the best. Winter boasted, well, you can build snowmen and the snow is so beautiful, and Christmas, everyone loves Christmas. Spring laughs and says, well, sure, but come springtime, everything is so fresh and new. All the new flowers, it can't get much better than that. Summer says, yes, but I am undoubtedly the overall best season. Girls in bikinis, ice cream, nice weather, you can't top that. What about you, Autumn? What do you have to offer? Autumn leaves.
Sadly, I don't have a rim shot sound effect to give you on that one, but
that would have been nice. Actually, I should have been prepared for that.
I'll get that arranged. I'll have an audio
That'd be awesome.
board ready
That'd
to
be
go. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right, and let me make sure we are on track here. All right, let's move on to requesting some comments and announcements from officers. Do any of the officers have any announcements? Yes, Chad.
Yes, my announcement is the dues are due, I believe, by the end of this month. So for the most part, I think everyone on the Zoom call has paid their dues. But I would also like to invite Omar if you are interested in becoming a member. You can respond to one of the emails that we send out. It's really good once you are a member to kind of get going on the educational path of pathways. So if you have any questions about pathways or becoming a member, let me know. And then hopefully we got, I don't know if we were able to get Bridget. Do you have Bridget's information? Or?
Yeah, I have her contact information. I'll get you in touch.
Okay, so you'll link her in. Okay, great. That's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Chad. Maybe we can. Do we have a digital copy of the membership application form? Maybe we can get a copy and we can send it off to Omar via email and handle it that way, so he has access to it.
I can get one. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other announcements from officers? I have a few announcements, but I'll wait. All right. And then members. Does any members have any announcements?
Yes.
Oh, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before the meeting started, and I don't think everybody was on, I don't think Chad and Patrick were on, just wanted to give everybody an update that Toastmasters International has instructed they have decided that there will be no meetings of any kind, and that includes in person. There will be no meetings of any kind in person, including club meetings, district executive council meetings, officer meetings, and speech contests until at least June 1st. So what that means is we as the district, which is 143 clubs, about 3,000 people that cover San Diego and Imperial counties, will be having our division speech contest online, most likely through Zoom. There's some talk that they may be broadcast over Facebook or streamed live on some other platform. But what this means to you is that you'll get an opportunity to see the contests in person you'll be able to see the contests without having to leave your home. Because normally, and what it's looking like is our district finals for the International Speech Contest is going to be virtual as well. In order for the district to qualify a candidate for the International Speech Contest Finals, which are slated to be held at the International Convention this summer, we need to have our district contest by June 1st. So what that means is normally you would have to go to the district speech contest finals and there's an entry fee, or there's a $5 admission donation to get in. But now you have an opportunity to see the best speakers in the district give their speeches online. And we're going to be working out some kinks. We being the district executive council, as I'm sure most of you know, I am an area director for Toastmasters District 5. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. Number one, on the fact that we are not, per Toastmasters International's instructions, we are not to meet in person until June 1st, at least, and despite what local authorities say. So if SDSU decides to let us meet on campus, according to Toastmasters, we can't meet in person. And then also the fact that the district speech contests as well as division speech contests are going to be more accessible than ever, because you'll be able to access them on your laptop, your desktop, or whatever mobile device you have. So that's what I want to give an update on, just those two things: the instructions from Toastmasters International and the update on the speech contest. Thanks, Kevin.
Great, thanks, Tom. If you can send an email with that information, a little bit of that information, because I am very interested in attending the online contest. I think that would be a really interesting and cool event to take part of, and I'd like to give a hand in any way I can. So if there's a role that needs to be filled, I'd be willing to help out.
That's great, Kevin, because actually you would qualify as a judge, and we will need judges. We're still trying to figure out we're still trying to iron out all the wrinkles. There's talk that, as I said, that the district is going to do a mock contest, but there are districts that have already completed their contests all online, all virtual contests. So our district contest chair, as well as district judging chair, are reaching out and trying to find out some best practices from those folks. So once I have some solid information regarding dates, I will send out some information. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. I also want to mention to Chad and the rest of the group, I thought I saw an email go out about dues being pushed back a little bit. So you may want to take a look at that. I think with everything going on, I think they might have pushed the dues. I think they may be due a little bit later now because of something that happened. I'll double check into that, but if you happen to see anything, I want to post about that. All right, and moving on with some other post-meeting announcements. I'd like to ask everyone to follow Toastmasters District 5 on Meetup or join the group there, and then sign up for our Azteca Toastmaster events. I'm going to put a link in the chat. You can go to the District 5 Meetup group there, and that is where we post our Toastmaster events. So if you sign up for District 5 and add, and then get it, and then when you see the invite for our meetings show up, say that you're going to attend, and that really helps out, showing that more people are attending, and I guess maybe it spreads even more that way. I was just told that we need to have at least 3 people sign up, and that really helps things out. And then speaking of social media and sharing, it would be really handy if everybody were to, I've been posting a lot about our meetings on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So if everybody that has an account on those sites, could you please share those announcements and those tweets? That'll really help the club out quite a bit in getting more visibility. On the 13th of April, we're planning to have an officers meeting, but next week we will not be having a meeting at all. There's going to be spring break for most of us, so that is March 30th. There will be no meeting. But when we get back on April 6th, we will have another meeting then, and it'll be on Zoom. Here again, I'll send out an invite, and the theme will be luck, when preparation meets opportunity. I will post the agenda in chat here, so if you have not signed up for a role, you may do so, and so that we are ready to go for that meeting. I believe that there's a Toastmaster, General Evaluator, Awe Counter, Timer, Topicsmaster. There's quite a few roles that are still necessary to be filled for that. So if you could, please sign up for a role. And as I mentioned, this meeting is being recorded, and we will be available on our YouTube channel in the next day or two. I will post a link to our YouTube channel. I highly recommend that everybody subscribe to that. Like and share our videos, and that'll certainly help out the club. And at that, I think that is all I have for you. So I'd like, unless there's any last minute announcements, going once, going twice, then I would call this meeting adjourned. Have a great spring break, everybody, and stay healthy out there.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, take care.
See you guys.
Bye.
For anybody who needs to know, CVS plans on getting a new load of toilet paper on Thursday. So.
All right, thanks.